You're listening to CFRN, a community of believers who trade for a living. To learn more about who we are, what we do, and how we do it, call toll-free 1-866-928-3310. And we'll send you a no-obligation information kit absolutely free. 866-928-3310. The CFRN Emini Futures Cast is now on Stitcher. Listen to us on your iPhone, Android phones, BlackBerry, and WebOS phone. Stitcher is smart radio for your phone. Find it in your app store or at Stitcher.com. Stitcher Smart Radio, the smarter way to listen to radio.
Are you ready, Steve?
The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Well, all right, fellas.
You're listening to CFRN, the Christian Financial Radio Network.
Today's broadcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download at www.audibletrial.com/CFRN. Over 85,000 titles. Choose from mystery, romance, religion, science, technology, business, New York Times bestsellers, even children's books. You name it, Audible has it. With 85,000 titles to choose from, you're sure to find the perfect audiobook for yourself or to give as a gift, and it's absolutely free. Just point your browser to audibletrial.com/CFRN. That's audibletrial.com/CFRN. And become a part of the audiobook revolution by downloading your free audiobook today. audibletrial.com/CFRN.
Hey trader, want to get rich quick? Well, good luck with that. If on the other hand you actually want to learn how to trade, the place to be is www.cfrn.net. Tune in Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. Eastern for our daily devotional, and then spend the next 3 hours learning how it's done from professional traders who actually trade for a living. That's www.cfrn.net. Every trading day from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern. CFRN, a community of believers who trade for a living.
Good afternoon, traders, and welcome back to the CFRN Emini Futures Cast. This is the daily broadcast of Indeterminate Length, where we discuss all things Emini, along with some really big ideas on the finer points of trading gold, bonds, crude, sugar, the euro, and even T-bills. Joining us today from our studios in Boston, Mr. Michael Borth. From our trading desk in Chicago, Mr. Burton Schlichter. Now, to get things started, let's go to our host and founder in Studio A, overlooking South Mountain, America's largest city park. Here's Dwayne.
Good afternoon. Welcome back. Today's Thursday, 4th day of June, 2020. Thanks so much for joining us. Whoever you are, wherever you are, we're just glad to have you right here, right now. If you cannot see the screen I have up, go to our homepage at cfrn.net. On the right-hand side of the page, click the big microphone, follow the instructions. It'll take about 30 seconds, and then you'll be registered for life. You'll get a notice every day before the show starts, reminding you the show starts, but that email will also have a link in it. And when you're ready, you can join the show with just one click. One-click access every day. No more registering, no more typing in all this stuff. Just click and go. Now, the days you're out of the office, away from the desktop, on vacation, lounging around the pool, then point any internet-connected browser to cfrn.net/live, and there you'll find a live, real-time simulcast of the show as it unfolds. You just don't have the chat box there. We also stream live during the show on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Okay. It's been a great day, market-wise. Let's open with a word of prayer, and then we'll get this thing underway. Father, we thank you for your mercy and your grace in our lives, and we just thank you that you're God, and we're not. And we know that. Sometimes you have to remind us, but we know that. God, we praise you for your truth. We're grateful that you have set us free from the grasp of sin and death. We ask today, God, that you be with us, all of your people, extending your grace, granting your freedom, providing your protection, and empowering us with your strength, not ours. We ask, God, that you'd bring about an awakening of your presence here in our country and around the world, an awakening like Azusa Street, but even more powerful, God. We ask that your name, the true living God, be proclaimed, that all plans to silence the name of Jesus would be thwarted and crushed. And God, we pray that many would come to know you as Lord and Savior. We pray that many would see your light, that you would open blind eyes and release those still imprisoned in their own minds. We pray, God, that you would unify all of your people for the glory of your name, that all who call themselves Christians would rise up believing your great truth. There's a term people use today, God, about being woke. Our prayer today is that people be woke to who you are, to what your Son did, and what the eternal truth really is. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Now, I don't know if you guys heard those little jingle jangles going on in the background, but I am currently working on a project. Those who are part of the, if you're a CFRN passport holder, you probably got a link some time ago to a trigger channel. And so I put out a notice yesterday that as these alerts come through, it's not a call to trade, okay? Now, everybody hasn't been added. A couple people have. We're just doing a real rough beta as I fine-tune and tweak the code itself. But those of you who do have access, what you should do is when you hear that, again, it's not a call to put on a trade, but I want you to look at your chart. It signals on the 5 and the 30, and I just want you to jot down any thoughts, notes, based on what you see, because this fine-tuning process is going to take some time, and it's never going to be a replacement for the decision-making capabilities of the human mind. It's simply an alert to go look at your chart, because something might be about to happen. Okay? Okie doke. All right, I'm going to go straight to the numbers from around the world. We've kind of tried to change our format here a little bit. I meant to mention that to Michael earlier this morning because I didn't know. I sent him a message here on Telegram to see if he's
I'm here.
Oh, good, buddy. Okay, let me give him the numbers real
I'm
quick,
here.
and then it's all yours. All right, folks. Let me just pull in some fresh data. All right. Currently here in the U.S., the Dow down 1.5 points. NASDAQ down 40. S&P 500 down 9. Russell 2000 down 3 3/4 points. This morning in the pre-market session, really the discussion hinged around, are we going to have a bullish or a bearish session? So I gave everybody the number to look for to determine, are we on a bullish day or is it becoming a bearish day? And we were at the flat line, we rallied up, and now we've come back to that decision point. And you can tell by the small numbers here that I just gave you. No movers, no shakers. In the commodity basket, crude oil down 43 cents, trading 36.86 last. That's a drop of a little over 1%. Gold up today, 15 bucks, trading 17.19.80 last. That's a gain of almost 1%. In the Asian markets at the close, Nikkei added 82 points. Shanghai dropped 4. The Hang Seng added 40. Again, no movers, no shakers. Quiet trade. Is this the top of this rally? We'll talk about that more. In the European markets, FTSE posted a loss of 40 points. The DAX lost 56. The CAC dropped 10. Again, no movers, no shakers. Mixed day in Asia. Red day in the UK. And at the moment, it's a big red radio Thursday here in the US of A. So we're going to go to Michael right now. We're going to get a recap of everything that happened in the live training room. Now, Thursdays are always a busy day. I did hear from John. He's feeling better. He's going to try to pop on for a bit. Dr. Tom comes on Thursdays at the top of the hour, 1 p.m. Eastern. And while I've been striving for continuity with a recap on my end, today, Thursday, it's probably going to get broken up a little bit. So my apologies for that. But I'll try to give you as clear a picture as I possibly can. And we will definitely, before I hang up the headset for the day, we will cover all of the Concierge Trade Alerts, all of the Logic 247 alerts. And Michael, take it away.
Okay. All right. I got it. Let me just bring it over. There we go.
All right,
Okay.
You are locked and loaded.
Excellent. I will get started then. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Today is Thursday, the 4th day of June, 2020. Just a reminder to all the partners, there is a partners meeting tonight. To anybody who is considering becoming a partner, if you wanted to get into the partners meeting, you have to become a partner before 9 p.m. tonight. If you don't know how, send us a quick email at support@cfrn.net, and we will send you all the information that you require to become a partner. Okay, so here we go. If you're going to read the spreadsheet, you got to read the CFTC risk disclosures down at the bottom. Today, as I said, is the 4th day of June, 2020. Today we made 11 ticks in gold and 8 ticks on the ES. Put us at plus 210 on the morning session. Today it took 17 minutes and 2 trades to get to the goal for the day. At that point, we're up $100 a contract, and we took a total of 6 trades. Today is one of those days where you could be caught over trading. But I'm going to go through a bunch of things when I bring the charts up in just a second here. So on the month now, we're at $1,350 profit. That's over 4 days, averaging $337 per contract per day. On the year, we're at $37,765. That's over 101 trading days, averaging $373 per contract per 2-hour day. And again, I miss most of the trades. If you've not taken a free trial with us and you want to, go to the home page at CFRN.net, and right here it says free 5-day trial, no credit card required. Click on that and scroll down to where it says name, email, and phone number. And you can tell us the biggest trading challenge. You hit the send button, you'll be sent a confirmation link. You must click on the confirmation link, okay? If you don't click the confirmation link, we don't know that you took the free trial. Now, let's get into what we did and didn't do. See, gold had a few nice trades, but it was whipping all around today. We missed this one and we jumped on that one. We picked up 10 ticks. That's where we got our goal for the day. And then the slingshot was stopping us from getting into any of these moves here. Okay. That was nice long right here. And then we picked up one more tick right there. And you see it's in a nice uptrend, but look at the cycle down here. That's going to stop us from getting into anything. Okay. Now, what I want to show you, the other thing that I wanted to show you is the YBR. Red YBR, down close, bearish separation, big move down. Red on the YBR, we didn't have the separation. We didn't have the separation. Blue on the YBR with an up close. And we had nice bullish separation right there for that leg up. Over here, red on the YBR with a down close. It pulled back a little bit. You had to feel a little pain on that one. But it still eventually went down. Over here, blue on the YBR with an up close, bullish separation, and up it went. Okay. Now, when I'm actually taking these trades, I'm looking at the DOM and I'm reading the DOM to see what to expect out of the trade, where it's most likely to go to. Now, when I'm doing that, let me bring one over. See, when I'm looking at the DOM like this, see the numbers down here? What side is the largest? That's where it wants to go. So right now it wants to go down here to 21.6. I'll be doing more work on that to teach you guys how to read that and what to expect, and to look at the indicators and see if the indicators agree with it. But that was gold today. We're plus 11 on gold. Now, on the euro, we had just one trade on the euro. And it was right here. It was a break-even trade. Oh, no, we had two trades. I gotta fix it. We had two trades. But they were both break-even trades. Okay, now let me back the euro out. Okay. Let's see. In here, it looks like there was a shorting opportunity right there. I'm just scrolling through here. A long opportunity right there. It was in a nice uptrend here. So we went long right there. We went long again over here. And then it turned around and started giving it all back. And this huge move down, we didn't have any trade setups in that huge move down, sadly. There was a move right here. It would have been right in there for that leg down. And that was pretty much it on the euro. The euro was kind of, it was moving, but it wasn't moving in a way that we could take advantage of it. Okay. Now on the crude oil, we had one break-even trade right here. We missed that one. Missed that one. That was a nice one right there. And then it just got really choppy. It just didn't give a lot of opportunity today. And that's sad because crude is the market that I normally look to for the opportunity. On the ES, we had one trade right here. We picked up 8 ticks profit. And then it just got really choppy. gave a short opportunity there and there. Got choppy again, consolidating, and it's still there, consolidating. That was the yesterday. Okay, so let's go back here. If you haven't taken a free trial with us, go to the homepage at CFRN.net. Right here it says free 5-day trial. No credit card required. Click on that and scroll down to here where all we ask for is your name, your email, your phone number. And you can fill this in if you want to. Hit the send button and you'll be sent a confirmation link. You must click on the confirmation link. Okay? We don't know that you took the free trial if you don't click on that confirmation link. Okay. Now, back here, if you're going to read the spreadsheet, you have to read all the CFTC risk disclosures down at the bottom. Today is the 4th day of June, 2020. We made 11 ticks in crude and 8 ticks on the ES, put us at plus 210 on the morning session. Today it took 17 minutes and 2 trades to get to the goal for the day. At that point, we're up $100 a contract, and we took a total of 6 trades, and actually 7. Let me fix that. 7 trades in a room this morning. On the month, we're at $1,350 a contract. That's over 4 days, averaging $337 per contract per 2-hour day. On the year now, we are at our 101st day, and we're up $37,765, averaging $373 per contract per 2-hour day. Okay. And that's everything. That was the morning. Okay. Now the YBR stuff, if you just look at it, it's 3 steps. 1, this changes color. 2, you get an up close. 3, do you have separation? And it's all over the place, and it's happening over and over and over and over again. Okay. I just wanted to point that out. All right. With that, we can pass it back out to fabulous Phoenix, Arizona, overlooking South Mountain, America's largest city park. Dwayne, if you are ready. Okay.
Okay, let me grab the charts. Recap of the recap.
Today it took 17 minutes and 2 trades to get to $100 per contract.
Good job. Good job. Okay, guys, I want to go over these big picture alerts with you. I'm thinking I'm going to hold that to the end of the show, and Garrett may come on tomorrow. He published a new edition of his newsletter today, so maybe he can come on tomorrow. But I want to walk through these big picture alerts with you. The Dow trade, I see crude ran up about 1,700 per contract. The Dow trade is somewhere around 3,500 per contract. The S&P. I've recapped some of them. Those big picture alerts go out on Saturday night. I've published them 2 Saturday nights in a row, and the market has smiled on us. Okay, so those big pictures, where I think they might really be beneficial for you, is let's say you trade the ES intraday, so you can't really be tied up in a long-term type of trade. But maybe you don't trade the Dow intraday. See, you can't be long and short the same contract in the same account. So if you trade the ES intraday, long when appropriate, short when appropriate, then you would choose maybe the Dow as the big picture, because that can take a couple days to complete, and it may complete today. Again, I'll try to take a look at it later in the show, but I just want to jump in here real quick and give you the recap so far for the week on the logic. I just got the recap from Valerie. Thank you very much, Valerie. Now, Valerie's going to be off next week, guys, so I don't know what's going to happen with the recap. I probably won't publish many alerts next week because the recapping part is so time consuming. You just have no idea. And Valerie does a really great job of it. Okay, at this time yesterday, well, we'll go back a couple days. Even go back another day. Okay, Monday, 40% of actionable alerts have been stopped out. Tuesday, we whittled it down to 33%. Yesterday, Wednesday, we whittled it down to 19%. And now we've got it down to 87%. Here, let me edit this so it will look like we want it to. There we go. Now we're cooking. All right, so far, as of 11:10 a.m. today, 61 total alerts issued. That's 61 individual trade setups across the S&P, the Dow, the Russell, the NQ, gold, crude. Okay. 10 of them never triggered. We wait a certain amount of time, and when price has definitively moved away from the trigger in the opposite direction, and we want to start putting on trades in the direction the market's actually going, we have to at some point just draw the line and say never triggered. We're still waiting on a disposition of 2. That gives us 49 actionable alerts so far this week. Out of those 49 actionable alerts, 18% have been stopped out. 9. Okay? Now, for weeks and weeks, I've been telling you almost every day, hey, these are not typical results, because we had some really low numbers. We even had weekly low numbers like 4%, 5%. That's not typical. This is typical. Over the last 96 weeks, over the last 3,000, is it 3,900? Well, no reason to guess when we can just take a look at it. So out of the last 96 weeks, and the last 3,954 alerts, okay, we've averaged 20% being stopped out. Alexa, what's 20% of 3,954?
20% of 3,954 is 790.8.
790.8 on your FM dial. Okay, enough fun and games. Let's get down to business. All right, I'm going to give you the Concierge Trade Alerts. If you want to take a screenshot, I encourage you to do so. All right, let me drag it up to the big screen. There we go. And my little snipping tool is always napping here on my taskbar. Oh, guys, I got to preempt with this. It's important. I mentioned yesterday that I used my insurance to get a new iPhone because my battery just couldn't hold a charge. So I got my new phone up and running yesterday, and my battery was draining. And I just, for the life of me, and my wife goes, it's probably that telegram you got going ding ding all the time. I'm like, So I went into this iPhone settings, and it shows you what apps are using the most of your battery, and Telegram was by far. Well, I listened to a lot of podcasts, so that was a percentage, but the huge percentage was Telegram. So I did some Googling. Turns out lots of folks have experienced battery problems with Telegram because it's always running in the background. Okay, Telegram is built on open source code, which means anybody can take that code, tinker with it, and attempt to create a better or improved version, or a version that has, various features. And some people were talking in GitHub about the fact that one of those modified dogs was called Nicegram. And one of the guys, he said, man, as soon as I put that thing on there, my battery just, it acted, everything was like it should be. So I did it last night. On my phone, I just went to the App Store, I downloaded Nicegram. It just asks you for your phone number, you type it in, and then boom, If somebody hadn't told me I was on Nicegram instead of Telegram, I would have really been able to tell the difference because everything's still there. So then I go over and I delete the Telegram app. So now on my phone I'm running Nicegram and I have extended battery life. So if it's an issue for you, that's how you fix it. Now, those of you that are getting those automated alerts, see this pullback right here on the 5-minute chart? That line you see is the BBC. It's a 5-minute chart. I'm getting close to having it just the way I want it. Okay, so screenshot. It's really important that everybody knows how to take a screenshot. So when you ask me questions in Telegram, you can send a chart and go, hey man, what's this? Or etc. So I clicked new, or I'm going to click new on the snipping tool, which comes with Windows 10. You don't have to buy anything. Once you click new, the screen will go gray. You take your cursor, you position it above and to the left of whatever you want to grab a screenshot of. Hold down the left mouse button and just drag it across. Okay. Release the left mouse button. Hover over the image. Right click. And now you have options to send it as an email, copy it to your clipboard to paste into another application, or you could actually save it as a picture, a JPEG or whatever you prefer. Okay. All right. So that's how you do it. Let's go to the charts. Take a look. Of course, we'll go to the daily chart real quick because there's something very important going on. Okay. Yesterday morning in the pre-market strategy session and yesterday on the radio show, I talked about this swing high, the importance of that swing high, 31.31. And I said that out of all of this movement, the only candle that took me by surprise was this one. And I said that if price ripped through this area of resistance, it's been highlighted up here for many, many weeks, I would take that as a surprise. So what did price do yesterday? It ran up to 31.2950. Okay, remember this swing high is 31.31. So the number I gave everybody in the room yesterday morning, I think was 31.30. Maybe it was 31, but anyhow, we ran up to 31.2950. See that pop up? 31.2950. Now today's high, I don't know if I can get it to 31.2675. So we have a lower high today. So we obviously did not rip through this area. Now I want you to think about this, okay? Since way back here, we've known that when price gets back here, and we knew that it would eventually get back there. I didn't know it would get there as quickly as it did, but it did. And the reason I know it's going to get there is because the indices are built to always go higher. We've got a company this week, I talked about it earlier in the week, that's getting delisted from the S&P 500, those 500 large cap companies, and a new strong bull is being brought in to replace the weak one. Okay, who was that? It's on the tip of my tongue. Their earnings went from like 4.8 billion to 1.8 billion. So they're asked to leave. New strong one comes in. So yes, we'll have stuff like this, but over time we'll continue to climb higher. Okay, so even back here, I knew that someday we would get here. And looking at the chart, it's obvious that when price tried to rally up to the BBC, it couldn't even, there was such bearish momentum, we couldn't get all the way up to the BBC. So we left this candle, okay? And we knew here that when price got here, there would be an obstacle, okay? Now, what I just explained and what I just showed to you, you can apply that to any market and any time frame, even a range chart, even a volume chart. Okay, no matter what time frame you're in, no matter what market you're trading, the clock on the wall is always price. All right, so buyers and sellers are going to duke it out. If price closes today below the step line, take that as an indication that price is trying to get back to the BBC. Okay? Price always reverts to the mean, and in our case, the mean just happens to be green. Leg, retrace to the BBC. Leg, retrace. Leg, retrace. Now this is quite a leg. So this retracement, once it's underway, could be fast and furious. All right? So let's go to the 30-minute chart. We're sitting right above the weekly trading zone, 3099/3100. There's only one more weekly zone overhead, way up at 3194. Now there's areas that I highlighted for the folks in the strategy session this morning to be aware of if price could take out yesterday's swing high, and I said it's a tall order. Okay, so price did rally up, but look where it stalled out at this swing high. Okay, so we got a high, we got a lower high. We got a high, we got a lower high. Now we got basically kind of a double top going right here on the 30-minute. Price came down hard to the BBC. Okay, what do we expect when price comes down to the BBC? We expect it to hold. It held for a moment on the 30-minute, but we never got above the step line. See, I would have loved to have been long right above the step line up to the high of this candle, but I did not receive that opportunity. Now price is below the BBC. When price is below the BBC, we anticipate lower prices. When it's above, we anticipate higher prices. It's that simple. I promise you, it's that simple. Not easy, just simple. So what happened when price got below the BBC? It came down to the zone, which we expect to be good support until it isn't. Support sent us up to resistance. Resistance sent us down to support. Support sent us back to resistance. And on the 9:30 opening bell this morning, Wall Street, buyers came in and were able to lift us all the way up to this swing high. But the same sellers that applied pressure, or let me just say the same selling pressure that existed at this price yesterday, you expect it to still be here today until proven otherwise. So it sent price back down. So now the big question, will the zone hold? It held here. It held here. Looks like it's going to be tested again if in fact we take out this low. And I gave the guys this morning a window of opportunity from about 30.92 down to about 30.89. Okay, right here, because I expect, look left and you'll see I expect support to come in right here. You can see that by looking left. Okay, if we get back above the step line, okay, then there's a long window of opportunity from about 31.19 up to about 31.22. Okay, you get in, get your points, get out, and then have your spouse or significant other lock the mouse up in the safe, the one that she only has a combination to, or he, whatever, right? And then every morning it's like, hey, can I get my mouse back, right? Get your points. So guys, I posted on this yesterday. We have an epidemic in our ranks. Nobody seems to be having any problem getting their points for the day. But some folks, quite a few, are having difficulty keeping them. And that's such an important part of the trading equation. Now, if you were raised to have a good work ethic, you've always worked really hard, you know, try to do an honest day's work for an honest day's pay, all of that. The fact that with trading, that hurts you more than it helps you is completely counterintuitive. And I don't have time to dissect all the psychology of it, and I'm not even qualified to do that. I just know that it's a fact. Okay? Establish a goal, reach your goal, and then go live life. Right? If you knew today was your last day, would you spend the whole day staring at the charts? Probably not. Okay? Get the job done and then go chase whatever passion God has put in your heart. And if you don't feel you have a passion, then ask God to speak to you to move. Say, I'm ready. God, the vessel is ready. Pour your spirit into me. Show me what you want. Light me up. I want to be on fire for something. Okay, God? All right. So, Concierge Trade Alerts from last night. S&P, we wanted to be long, 31.25. And the swing high was 31.27. 2 points. That's all it offered us. Okay. Now we didn't expect much more than that. Why? Right there. Now magic market structure. 31.25. 31.25. Wait a minute. Is the high of this candle? Oh, the high of the candle is 31.2675. I thought it said 31.27. So it didn't go 2 points. It went 1 3/4 points. Okay. However, you also had some logic alerts to assist you, which got you in before the CTA even triggered. Now, John just dinged my phone. So, guys, I'm going to have to pause the recap for now. We'll talk to John, we'll talk to Tom, and then I'll finish the recap in full. Okay? All right, John, I'm going to open your mic. There you go. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. How are you doing?
Good, good. Yourself? Feeling better?
Not too bad, thanks. So, there is a kind of a important development going on today. And that is that the market may run into resistance between yesterday and today, and it went a little bit higher overnight and was reversed this morning. And the FANGs kind of gave the heads up yesterday because they started coming off near the close, and since they've been leading the markets higher, you had to be on alert for a potential change in trend, and that's happening before our eyes right now.
Now, John, say that last part about the change in trend. I don't know if you're talking about the markets in general or the S&P, but
no, I'm talking about all of them, because the Nasdaq, was the first to go negative. It's been underperforming the last few days.
Correct.
And the semiconductors are still positive, so that's a ray of hope. But pretty much everything else has gone red, and especially the pharmaceutical stocks are turning down as well. So
I'm gonna go big picture here on the NQ. Give me just a second, and everybody will be able to see.
And we're at a potential double top on the Nasdaq as well, of significance. Just it didn't quite make it to a new high yet.
Now look at, guys, I want you to look at this, exactly what John's talking about. We know the importance of this bearish cross right here. See, when price hit that area, it sent us all the way back to the BBC, but the BBC held. Now, okay, get a mental picture of this, and now look at the daily on the S&P. Okay, we've not taken out that bearish cross yet, and the NQ has risen at a much more aggressive and rapid rate. It's outperformed to the upside. So are your thoughts, John, that it's now potentially going to lead us to the downside?
Well, look, you have to be mindful of the possibility of that happening. Things aren't going that well, really. I know the market's had a fantastic performance, biggest 50-day rally in history, but you got to be very careful here. There's a potential little double top that you can see there. A double doji kind of a setup as well is something to be a little bit careful of. It could be just 1 or 2 days down and we go back up again. That's the way the market's been going.
If we make a pullback all the way to the BBC on the NQ, that's going to be about 93 current. We'll call it 93.60.
Yeah, no, it definitely could happen. But there's probably a decent sized pullback. Ahead, we're certainly down today. Being down on a Thursday not a very good thing.
Well, I mean,
and
this chart, John. I mean, just consider what we've gone through with this pandemic, rioting in the streets, and look, we're almost at all-time historic highs.
well, the global pandemic is getting worse. You know, Brazil, India, Mexico.
This just doesn't look like a market climbing a wall of worry, as you have been known to say. I call it a unicorn market because I just don't quite believe it, but I have to trade it as it appears on my chart.
You know,
my opinion
with
doesn't count.
Apple being up there at all-time highs, but you know, double top is way beyond its real valuation. I think that's dangerous kind of a setup. You know, Tom Pettifee from the billionaire founder of Interactive Brokers was on yesterday, made a very interesting statement about he said, look, if the liquidity dries up, you know, you can't sell, and that, you know, could be coming to a market near you at some point. Mm-hmm. That's kind of what happened in 1929. The oil, it caught him in the oil, cost him $88 million. You know, when that oil disaster happened, and he said, you know, it went down $40, minus $40, $37 on 1,000 contracts. That's what a lack of liquidity can do to you. Mm. So I think, you know, almost from the moment he came on yesterday, the market started weakening. You know, it's definitely got a bit weak at the knees. You know, the Dow on that was still strong, but that was masked by, well, that was masking the fact that the NASDAQ, which is leading the way, you know, was pulling back. Now, look, you know, this NASDAQ has an incredible capacity to recover. It got down about this much yesterday and ended up going higher, you know. So you can never, you know, you just can't rule out anything with this market. You have to sort of take it hour by hour. If you want to put up Boeing, Dwayne,
I heard this morning, yes, somebody said that, well, it was just, I heard a positive comment about Boeing's performance the last couple of days.
Well, if you remember, we identified Boeing as a buy in the teens. It was about 118 at this last bottom. And I said it would probably go to 200 on a measured move. And we got to 188 and a half this morning. So pretty spectacular. I've made a lot of people a lot of money on this trade. One guy, you know, was averaging about $5,000 a week in various different stocks that I put him in, including Boeing. Got him out a bit early, unfortunately, but still was a heck of a profit. You know, the semis advanced, AMD pulling back, NVIDIA pulling back. These are all stocks that have been, you know, performing very well in the last few days. You want to put ZS up?
I really like that company that went public this morning, Zoom Info.
ZI, yeah. It's an interesting.
I watched an interview with I think he was the CEO. He started that company when he was like 23 in college, going to law school, out of his dorm room. One of those crazy success stories like Michael Dell. But the business model and what they do, I find it very, very appealing. I think that company's
it's actually sort of done on Facebook so far. If you remember, Facebook went public at about 42 and sold off down to 18. So
is the symbol ZI? Did you say? Yeah, there it is. Holy smokes! I had no idea. Mm.
Yeah.
Well, but the pre-IPO price was $25.
Oh yeah. No, it's
how the heck did this thing open?
Well, it just got too much enthusiasm, too much of a premium.
Yeah. Wow.
And put up VTIQ.
I'm sorry, say that again.
VTIQ.
VTIQ. I missed something you said. Maybe it was BTIQ?
No, yeah, that was correct. VTIQ.
VTIQ. Okay.
Maybe it's okay. Look, it was trading yesterday up to about 33 or 35.
Could it be
it's
VTI,
converted
John?
today.
I don't get a symbol for
it's
VTIQ.
Converted. It changed the symbol.
Okay.
The new symbol is NKLA.
NKLA,
Yeah,
Nikola Corporation. Okay.
correct. Now, this is a very interesting company. We've been talking about it in the form of VTIQ ahead of time. That was the vehicle that was the acquisition vehicle for this kind of reverse merger on this thing. This is a potential competitor to Tesla, and it could be a Tesla type story because they've taken the first name of Tesla, Nikola Tesla, and called this corporation NKLA or Nikola. So it has the edge on fuel cell powered trucks, which could revolutionize the trucking industry in the US. And there's an extra twist to this whole story, which is they basically want to become the future gasoline stations, if you like, an infrastructure network throughout the continent of hydrogen filling stations. And there's been a lot of hype about this stock. So I don't, it's pulling back a little bit today. Well, I'm obviously pulled back to the 30, low 30s, but it's rebounding. And I
wonder if
think
this is a takeoff on Nikola Tesla.
It is.
It is.
Yeah, exactly. So, but it's definitely one to watch, and it's obviously been performing very well. Unfortunately, I was a bit late to the game getting on board this one. And even the pullback was a little bit difficult to get along on, but it's obviously been performing very well. I think it's going to continue to perform because most people are not getting the memo on this one yet, but it's definitely got a lot of upside.
Wasn't Nikola Tesla somewhat held out to be, his thinking didn't line up with mainstream science at the time, or am I confusing him with that other math fellow?
I think he probably, is a sort of a personification of Elon Musk a little bit in this guy, in terms of that exactly what you said. He's a kind of a
odd man out, but
maverick, kind of a maverick. Anyhow, the other, as you know, Tesla has been performing very well of our ideas as well. It basically got up to 900. I thought it might go a bit higher, but it's that's about as far as it's going to go for now. The other stocks to watch are Zoom, ZM. These are these high
flyers. Have you actually used Zoom?
No, I haven't.
Yeah,
no idea. But
we've used GoToWebinar for so long. I've tried Zoom, and I've been in on some Zoom meetings, and I like it. But once you become grounded with something, that you've used for, it's kind of like changing trading platforms. You just kind of feel like a stranger in a strange land. You feel lost. So someday we might switch to Zoom. I don't know, but for now,
this ZM is coming off now. I already thought it was going to top out yesterday or today, and it's doing exactly that right now. No, normally a stock this strong might pull back for a day. If you look at Enphase, ENPH.
Here we go.
The first time when this thing had a really big streak, if you remember, we talked about that streak ahead of time, and it came up to the previous high, then it had a couple of day pullback, and then it went way higher. But since then, it's actually got a bit weak, and it's right on maybe completing a three-wave pullback right now. So it's back at a potential buy point, because this is a really hot company, and I think they've been doing quite well in spite of the COVID and everything. So, but the Zoom and the ZS is, I think, holding up a bit better than the Zoom today. And the Zoom has a habit of sharp corrections. So, it was a pretty good trade for some. It's actually coming off quite a bit too, the Zoom ZS. So, they're both vulnerable to a downturn, and it kind of reminded me, if you go to another one is DOCU, DOCU.
Okay.
Similar. You see, it's almost like a carbon copy. These kind of late balloon high flyers.
For those who don't know, this company allows you to electronically sign documents, the type of thing that you would traditionally have to go to the bank or go to the real estate broker's office. You sign electronically, but it is legally binding. It's just as if you went there in person and signed it in front of witnesses.
Yeah, no, this is an idea whose time has come. It's really a fantastic deal, really, and that's why it's going crazy. Now, if you go to Docs, D-O-X, okay, look at back in February. This thing went wild on the upside in a similar way to Docu, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then it had a pullback, and then it had a pretty big crash. And I was actually trying to short that thing up around the highs. It's always hard to short something that's been gapping up like that. And another one was Stamp, S-T-M-P.
Is that stamps.com?
Yeah. That's another one that's been a high flyer
it fits
recently.
Right in with Zoom and DocuSign. It's all about people being able to do business without having to leave the compound.
Right. So these, stay-at-home stocks are finally meeting their maker. I guess because people aren't staying at home anymore. So, we've kind of had a blow-off in these in the last few days, and I'd be pretty careful.
We've established a new norm. We've got the
no doubt about that. These are serious companies, and look, this Zoom. I said it a long time ago. You just got to buy the dips on these things if you can, because and the same with the pharmaceuticals. Right now, the pharmaceuticals are underperforming. GILD, if you want to put that one up, Dwayne. I'm not writing this one off, even though the remdesivir has been getting a lot of bad press. Mm-hmm. By the way, this anti-hydroxychloroquine has all been a whole scam. This thing about the people dying was all a lot of fabrication. So
I heard something yesterday about, I heard the name of the drug, and then I heard scam, blah, blah, test. I don't know the story, though. Oh.
Yeah, well, it's definitely Laura Ingram has got the apparently there was some doctor who was literally out there to take down Trump with this whole thing. So another example of ineptitude and and by the way, the ivermectin, I think there's some news, maybe we can look at it tomorrow. They handed it out to 350,000 people in Bolivia. And I believe they're getting pretty good results, trying to keep the COVID out of the population there. It's been getting increasing amounts of press lately. Also, the Avigan, as we talked about a few days ago in Russia. Just one final thing before Dr. Tom comes
by the way,
on.
all rise, Dr. Tom is in the house.
We better genuflect. So anyway, no, I don't know whether you saw this, but Xi, of China, said to Boris Johnson, Boris Johnson, UK Prime Minister, said he'd be happy to take the 3 million Chinese with eligible visas, into Britain, which I think would be phenomenal. I think it would be, imagine 3 million very rich and industrious Chinese coming into the UK. It would really probably be transformational. Because you remember when the Asians got kicked out of Uganda.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, that was a huge, and they were told they left their businesses behind, they left their money behind. I mean, it was like what did they give them, like 24 hours to get out of the country?
It didn't take them long to make it back, because a lot of those Ugandans are some of the richest people in the UK today. So it's kind of a strange thing.
I did not know that.
Yeah, there's been people there's a lot of very successful Egyptians in the US, and Iranians for that matter. So people who get kicked out of countries and end up in the U.S. or in Australia.
There's a preacher in Kampala that's got his own airplane.
Right, they tend to do very well when they arrive with nothing, and especially Western Canada. I mean, Vancouver and all the people from China who've come to Vancouver. So, Anyway, I've got a message for Boris Johnson. You know, she was trying to bully him and telling him to step back from the prefaces, you know, from the brink or something.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I would say if I was Boris Johnson? Go ahead, make my day. So, you know, I think I hope you know, Johnson has sent him a pretty powerful message to you know, ease up on Hong Kong, because I think unfortunately it's going to be a big flashpoint, and so is Taiwan, for that matter as well. So.
Well, thank you, John.
So, okay. Or listen, have a great afternoon, and
right,
have a good.
Good to
all
have
right,
you
all the
back.
best.
Okay.
You too. Bye.
So, Dr. Tom, how are you? I can't hear you if you're trying to talk. Tom, Dr. Tom. All right. So we'll talk for a second here while Dr. Tom's getting his headset on, or whatever it is he's doing. This is one of the big picture alerts from Saturday night. This was the Dow. Entry was 25,610. Here was the initial target, second target, final target. Now, last night, I sent a message out, and I said, because we had come shy of reaching the final target, but at the swing high, it was 737 points, but we've taken that, we've traded higher than that today. So this figure is not 100% accurate. It's a little more than that. Okay. Now, my message last night, anyone who participated in the Dow Big Picture trade, if you chose to take profit here, or as we started to fail in getting to the final target, use the second target as a potential area to re-enter the trade. It's the whole important prices, important areas, almost always tested. I mean, even on the entry, triggered, back below the trigger, trigger, back below the trigger, trigger, back below the trigger. And then we just consolidated here at the first target. And then off we go. Okay, so at the second target, we make a run, get back below, another run, and then we trigger again right there. And I know there were some questions last night about, well, what do you mean by use the second target as a place to re-enter? Hopefully this explains what I was talking about. Okay, so the actual swing high now is 26,368. Swing high 26,368. Okay, I don't know what happened to Dr. Tom. Oh, he's muted. My word. I thought one of my people would have opened your mic, but I guess they didn't. Okay, Dr. Tom, this time for real. Welcome to the show. Oh, Dr. Tom. Hey. No, seriously, Dr. Tom, I opened your mic. Okay. Okay, I'll start talking about something, and then that way he'll pop in. Okay. I'm hoping. Now, is this Dow trade going to trigger yet again? Well, it looks like it. So the question you would ask yourself at this point, where are we on this 30-minute chart in relation to the BBC? Oh, don't do that. Okay. So at the trigger, you'll notice here, okay, on this move, okay, we've got blue and climbing to support. See here, you're dealing with red and falling. So not the most conducive. But here, now you've got below you blue and climbing support. Okay, step line is where it should be. It was, okay, on this liftoff, which took us to the highs. Okay, so now, where we're at right now, what needs to happen? Well, first, price needs to get on the north side of the BBC. And as long as this stays blue, it supports being long. But if we consolidate here for another candle, this thing's going to turn red. Okay? Now you'll have an obstacle to deal with as you move up. But you still have an opportunity from about 26 to 30.
Test.
26 to, hey,
okay.
There you are. Welcome.
Man, I don't know what happened.
I don't know.
I was muted as I started messing around with my microphone, and I must have messed up with the microphone, not realizing I was muted. So here I am in the flesh.
Yes, you are. Well, we're so glad to have you with us.
Thank you. As a Christian, I shouldn't be in the flesh, should I? I should be in the spirit.
Do you want me to send you?
How you doing today, Dwayne?
Doing good, man. Well, yeah. Let me show you this, and I'll show you. This is the NQ. Okay, this is the Nasdaq Emini Futures. Tech stocks. This is a daily chart. Okay, so this is the bearish cross that confirmed our look for lower prices. And this was the bottom of the pandemic crash. Now, understand what's happened. Our country's been locked down. People have been told to stay in their homes. They can't find toilet paper in the grocery store. They have to wear masks. Segue into rioting and looting in the streets. People screaming, I'm so sick of this social or this racial injustice. I'm going to the mall and steal me some damn Nikes. Right? How, with that backdrop, does this market trade a whisper away from the all-time historic high? And we're technical traders, not fundamental, so my opinion means nothing. But I know a unicorn market when I see it. And when this thing finally slips and falls, it's going to fall. Okay? That BBC may not be enough to save the bacon. If we go from that low to that high, I mean, the shallowest Fibonacci retracement brings us all the way back to 9,000. That's a $600 drop in the NQ. 600 point drop. And 600 times $20 a point, that's $12,000 per contract. So, how you doing?
Well, I'm doing great, brother.
You want me to send you the
blessed.
charts?
No, I don't really have anything today. I have got an idea of something I'd like to do with you, which is to have a little discussion and get your feedback on something that I've been getting feedback on from my clients for the last month or two. But let me preface that with a few scripture verses. That's okay?
Sure.
This is something I taught at a seminary about preparedness. Different parts of the country, like Florida, we're always have to be prepared for hurricanes 6 months out of the year. Lovely. Other places be able to be prepared for tornadoes or blizzards or whatever. But the Bible's very encouraging towards preparation. Luke 14:28-30. For which of you desiring to build a tower does not first sit down and count the cost, whether he has enough to complete it? Makes sense. Otherwise, when he's laid a foundation and is not able to finish, all who see it begin to mock him, saying, this man began to build and was not able to finish. Matthew 25:1-4. Then the kingdom of heaven will be like 10 virgins who took the lamps and went to meet the bridegroom. 5 of them were foolish and 5 were wise. For when the foolish took the lamps, they took no oil with them, but the wise took flasks of oil with their lamps. They were prepared. Luke 14:31. Or what king going out to encounter another king in war will not sit down first and deliberate whether he is able with 10,000 to meet him who comes against him with 20,000? So, the original prepper was ants, right? Proverbs 6:6-8. Go to the ants, you sluggard. I love that word sluggard. Means lazy bum. Consider their ways to be wise. Though they have no ruler to make them work, they labor hard for all through the summer, gathering food for the winter. So, I know a lot of Christians put down preppers and survivalists and so on, saying that, we just have to trust the Lord.
I think a lot of fundamental Christians are preppers. So, the camps are divided. You're right. I agree.
When I go to those shows, because I've been asked to speak at a number of them, I'm amazed. It's like 40 to 50% Christians that are there. I'm just talking about some Christians.
I agree. Yeah, I agree with you.
So, with that in mind, we've got, three really big things going on. We've got all the political turmoil, where even before he was elected, the House was trying to trap and then investigate and then impeach the president. So that's caused a lot of turmoil and division in the nation. Then the Chinese attacked us, which I believe is really probably a terrorist attack. I used to give them the benefit of the doubt and think it was an accident, but not anymore. And then we've got peaceful demonstrators, and I believe there are peaceful demonstrators, being co-opted by two terrorist groups, Antifa and Black Lives Matter. The president designated Antifa as a terrorist group, but that's mostly white people. I think he was afraid to designate Black Lives Matter, which is just as dangerous and has killed dozens of cops and calls openly for the death of all police. I think they're just as much of a terrorist group. And so, obviously not all the people that are, quote, peaceful demonstrators are peaceful. You don't go to a demonstration carrying a sledgehammer or a crowbar or a baseball bat.
Right.
You carry that sledgehammer so you can smash things. And then when the signal comes, they all turn from peaceful protesters into rioters. But there's so much going on, and to me, a deliberate attempt to cause division in the country to the point where we could actually have civil war. It's getting really scary out there. I don't know, how are things out in Phoenix? You have any problems there?
There was some. I've got somebody at my door. Please keep going, and I'll be right back. Okay.
Okay. Well, anyway, where I live down here in Florida, we've had some rioting and some arson, but fairly mild in West Palm Beach where I live. And then just down the road from me in Miami, it's gotten so bad that the federal government had to send in the riot squads. A lot of people don't know this, but the Bureau of Prisons, there's a lot of riots that take place in prisons. And so the Federal Bureau of Prisons has special squads that are specially trained to go in and break up riots and rescue people that have been trapped by them or being beaten to death and so on, like correctional officers. So the Attorney General sent the riot squads to 2 cities, although there's, it started off with 30 cities burning. Now we've got over 100. But he sent them to 2 cities, to Washington, D.C., and also to Miami. So I haven't been down in Miami, and I don't plan to go down anytime soon. But they're pulling people out of their cars and just driving by and beating them up for no reason. If they won't get out of their cars, they set their car on fire. So it's getting pretty ugly out there. A lot of people are peaceful areas, like I live way out in the country, we haven't seen any problems at all. But if I drive 15 miles into town, there's anarchy. So we have to be prepared. We have to figure out what to do to protect ourselves with the situation that we've been handed. We're probably as close to a civil war right now as we ever have been in history, except before the actual Civil War. So there's different ways to prepare, obviously. I'm preparing with a whole lot of prayer. I'm believing the Prince of Peace is going to come bring peace to this nation, because we can't just let people riot and run free and then they arrest them and then they release them without bail. And that happened in New York. And 20 minutes later, that some of the guys that they released were driving down the road firing guns at police officers. So we've got to have police that are allowed to do their jobs. I'm a former deputy sheriff myself, and although I'd never faced a riot, we were certainly trained for it. And this woman who's in charge of the Raleigh Police Department, she's just so wrong. She doesn't understand anything about policing, and she should certainly not be a police chief, because she said, well, I'm not going to allow any of my officers to get in harm's way just to save a building. Well, let's think about that for a second. The buildings that they're destroying are the stores in their own neighborhood. I don't know if you've ever heard the phrase, a food desert. That's what a lot of minority neighborhoods already are, because the big grocery store chains won't put stores in there because they know they're going to get smashed up and burned next time there's a riot. They can't even get insurance to build a store there. So the only stores that are serving them are these little small mom and pop stores, usually run by Koreans or Vietnamese people or whatever, that are willing to take the risk, because I guess they figure they're safe because they're minorities. But just the other day, I saw a Korean lady, 5 foot tall, being knocked to the ground by 6 big men, and they were beating her with 2x4s. And I don't know if she lived through it. I don't see how anybody could have lived through that. But then they burned the store. So there was this one black lady, when they interviewed, she was crying. She says, they destroyed every place I shop. I don't have a car. How am I going to be able to buy food? How am I going to be able to get the things that I need? They're destroying their own neighborhood. So it's not just a building that the arsonists are destroying. It's whole neighborhoods. It's the livelihood of the people that live there. So the minority areas, they're hurting themselves by doing what they're doing. And it's a terrible shame. So for her to say, this police chief, to say, I'm not going to put my officers in harm's way to save buildings, because buildings can be replaced. Yeah, but you can't replace whole neighborhoods. I mean, the Ferguson riots a few years back, they're not even anywhere near back to rebuilding what was torn down by the rioters. And it will probably take at least a decade, maybe more. And as I said, it's going to be very hard to get businesses to go back in there, knowing that the next time there's a little spark, that the same thing's going to happen. Are you there, Dwayne? Okay. I'll just continue. Now, when I say a little spark, I'm not denigrating the life of George Floyd. What happened to him was wrong. There's no question about it. But these rioters, 90% of them have no idea who George Floyd is. The TV people have interviewed him, and they say, why are you rioting? Well, because Whitey's mean, or because the police are committing genocide. So I was very interested to see a black professor, I think from Stanford, sociology guy, who's run the numbers. Because if you listen to the news, there's this widespread systemic racism in the United States, and the cops are out there looking for black people to murder. Well, altogether last year, according to this professor, and I've seen other people come up with almost exactly the same numbers, because the Washington Post, which is no friend of the president or the Republicans, it's a very liberal paper, but they've been keeping track for the last couple of decades of every single police shooting. And the results are these. Last year, 28 unarmed people, 28 in the entire country of 325 million, were shot or otherwise killed by police. That's out of thousands, tens of thousands of encounters with police.
Yeah,
28 people.
Do we have two separate set of rules here? I mean, is there some kind of double standard?
Well, we do. Dwayne, did you hear about the black cop that killed a white guy the other day?
I did not.
And you never will.
Did such a thing happen?
Oh, it happens all the time.
Well, I know it happens
Twice
all the time. I just thought there might be something here of late that I actually missed.
No, twice as many, according to this black professor. There were 9 unarmed black people who were killed by police in all of last year, and there were 19 white people killed by police. But the media will never show a black person killing a white person, a black cop, or even a black cop killing another black person, because that doesn't fit their narrative that we're an irredeemably racist country, that we deserve to be wiped off the face of the map because we're so awful and cruel and mean, and we're committing genocide on black people. And it's just not true.
It's not.
Is there still some racism left in the country? Yeah, I talk to people who still have racist attitudes, but they're afraid to act on them, frankly, because most of society will just stop them in a heartbeat.
But
they'll challenge them.
Generation, it diminishes. Right? Like,
absolutely.
Like my grandparents would say, "Oh, no, son, we're not racist," but you could tell by their behavior that there was still a holdover, right?
Sure.
In fact, I'll just, I've always been transparent with my audience. Here I go. If you hate me, I'm sorry. But when my grandfather retired from being the sheriff, he had another business, and he employed 2 young black men to work for him. And he treated them well, paid them what was proper for the day. But every day when he would come home for lunch. Now, my grandmother said it was because we had such a tiny kitchen. And we did. You could barely fit 4 people in there and a table. I mean, it was just a tiny, tiny house. But the 2 employees ate their lunch on the back porch. And that always, as a child, that struck me as, hey, I'm going to just say, with all respect to my grandparents, that had we had a larger kitchen, I believe they would have still eaten on the back porch. Now, my parents would have sat at the same table with those men. Me, it's not something that would ever even cross my mind. So that's what I mean by with each generation, that racism baked into the cakes, it's, the founding of our nation and all of that. It just seems to be going away with each generation. Did you agree with that, or? There's always going to be jerks. There's always going to be guys who are racist and white supremacists and wear the pointy hats. But that's not most of us.
No.
And I grew up
most
working
of what
class
they're calling
poor. My people were slaves. They might have been white, but they worked at slave jobs for slave wages. So, my birth certificate says Caucasian, but I'd be doggone if I can find my white privilege anywhere.
Well, there was a guy, it just infuriated me, wearing his Black Lives Matter gear, and he accosted a white lady on the street of, I think it was Atlanta, and he says, I work for Black Lives Matter. My CEO says that I'm supposed to get white people to apologize for white privilege. Well, this poor lady was shaking in her boots. She was by herself, and here she's being accosted by this guy. And he wouldn't let her go until she got down on her knees and apologized for her white privilege.
I've never been to Minneapolis. My people never owned any slaves. Like I said, we were slaves. It's so aggravating. And, you know, and so the answer is let's storm the mall and steal some Nikes. That'll teach them. Really?
Well, they stole a Tesla and drove it into a mall.
That, yeah.
And drove it all around, smashing things. But, you know, like I say, peaceful people don't come to peaceful protest with sledgehammers. I mean, they're ready to go. And, you know, I was talking about this with my daughter this morning. She said, well, you know, they're just peaceful people. And then they just got caught up in the moment. I said, no, if they're really peaceful, when the violence starts, they're going to turn around and leave, right? They're not going to be part of it. But a lot of them join in because now you can get a free 60-inch TV from the Target store. And in some areas, they've told the police don't arrest anybody unless they steal more than $1,000 worth of merchandise.
Oh, excuse me, sir. Could I tally up the stuff you're running out the door with? Because, like, you know, if it's under $1,000, you're cool, but you know, you can't. You're going to have to put a few items back, sir, because you just went over the $1,000 limit. How ridiculous is that?
It's pretty ridiculous. But the reason I brought this up is not so much to talk about the current event, but to talk about an event that I believe is coming. Because this is the backdrop. You know, all the political division, the virus, the locking people down in their homes. By the way, there is one bright spot. You know, Bill de Blasio, the mayor of New York, he's just such a total idiot. He has had churches shut down. No one's allowed to go to church.
Right.
He sent squad cars to break up small groups of Hasidic Jews that are meeting for prayer, even though there were less than 10 people. He sent the police to break them up. And yet he allows tens of thousands of peaceful protesters who he knows when the lights go out are going to turn to violent. And he lets them roam the streets with impunity and doesn't even make them social distance. So I've been pretty much down on the guy, but just before I came in the air today, I saw him make an announcement, and it looks like maybe the man has had a change of heart, because he gave a very inspiring speech to help bring New York together. He said, you know, we all need to figure out how to get along. We need to figure out how to go forward. What does go forward even mean? I mean, he just mumbled a bunch of platitudes, and I was expecting to break out in a round of kumbaya. But he said nothing. He offers no leadership. He can't speak against the protesters because they're his voters. All the people on welfare, they vote for Bill de Blasio.
Some of the people I saw out there stealing Nikes, I'm not so certain they do vote. Their parents vote. Their grandparents vote.
Well, that's a good point. I'm sure a lot of them don't vote. I mean,
well, I mean, Antifa, the Antifa folks, they're paid to vote, right? So don't give me
and to intimidate people who don't vote the way they want.
Yeah.
So basically, that was sort of a backdrop. And what I want to discuss, and you know, because I think about this a lot, and I've done a lot of research on past financial crashes through the thousands of years. Every country has experienced it sometime or another. What I've been doing is asking my clients when they call in to buy gold, I ask them two questions. I'd say, do you believe that the US dollar could crash? And almost to a person, they say yes. Some of them, very few say maybe. I've had one or two say no, this is America. But most people have now gotten to a place where they realize that our economy is in serious, serious trouble. I mean, just the fact that 6 times as many people, 600% increase in people buying gold since this all started in January, that should tell you something right there, that people realize we have problems. And then I ask them a second question: when? Most people say it could happen tomorrow. All right. Some people say, well, I think it's going to happen, but I don't know when, or it might happen in a few years. So let me try you out, Dwayne. Do you believe that the US dollar could crash?
I do believe that the US dollar, well, let's do this. Let's define crash.
Okay.
What,
hyperinflation,
okay.
Where the dollar becomes worth pennies or totally worthless, as has happened in almost every modern nation. And we might ask the audience the same question: do you believe the dollar could crash? To see what kind of responses they have. And then, so I defined it for you. What's your opinion? Do you believe that with all the debt that we're taking on, that we could see the dollar crash?
Yes.
Okay. And when do you think it might happen? And again, let's ask the audience to put that follow-up question, right next to their response. When do you think it could happen?
That I just got to say, I have anything that I say would be a guess.
Sure.
At best. So, David in the audience said after the rapture.
That would be nice, because I certainly wouldn't want to be around for it. Although I'm extremely well prepared. I've got a huge percentage of my net worth in precious metals, so I would fare far better than most people would. Any other comments from the audience on yes or no, or when?
There's your privilege showing, because you actually have a net worth, a positive net worth.
Yeah, I do. Thank the Lord.
Amen.
I've worked hard for it, but I've got one.
Anybody else? Anybody else want to participate and type something into the chat box? I think everybody in my audience believes that the dollar can and will crash at some point. But pinning it down as to a time, I'm a technical trader, and I don't have any time-based forecasting tools. I base everything off of price, and so yeah, I don't know the answer that you're looking for.
Well, the fundamentals are these. I mean, during the last administration, the national debt doubled from 10 trillion to 20 trillion. Now we're at 25.5 trillion. And with the spending they've already passed and the spending they're going to pass, we're going to add another 12 trillion to the debt this year alone. That's a 50% increase in 1 year. Obama increased it 100% in 8 years. So this is much worse. Obama raised the national debt by over $1 trillion every year. We're going to be raising the national debt by over $1 trillion every month. So at the end of Obama's reign, 43 cents out of every dollar was borrowed. A year from now, unless we make some radical changes, 88 cents out of every dollar is going to be borrowed. 88 cents. And that's assuming we maintain the same revenues as we have in the past. I don't think that's possible with 40 million people unemployed. And the real economists tell us whatever number the government gives you, multiply it by 2.1. So it's probably more like 85 million people unemployed, because they use all kinds of games. Like if your unemployment ran out, you're still unemployed, but you're not counted in the unemployment numbers. That's ludicrous. You're still unemployed.
Right.
Or if you tried for years to get a job and you can't find one because you're too old, nobody will hire you, or you don't have the skills or whatever, and you just gave up looking for work, they're not considered unemployed. So the unemployment numbers are very, very fake. So I don't see how we can maintain the revenues, because we don't get a lot of revenues in this country from tariffs and excise taxes and so on. It mostly comes from taxes on people. Individuals pay far, far more taxes than corporations do. So with even if they're right, there's 40 billion, revenues are going to be down. So that means it's probably more like 90% and higher as borrowed money, because there's no money coming from anywhere else. Mm-hmm. So with that backdrop, I believe that we could have a crash tomorrow. It's just going to take the right kind of spark, and it's just going to all let loose. So what I really want to talk about was
album Court and Spark, but that's a topic for another day.
Here's my question for you, because I've thought this through. I've got my thoughts on this. But let's say we have a crash, mm-hmm. all right? And it can be triggered by a terrorist attack like 911. It can be triggered by an EMP attack, or even a natural EMP. In the 1800s, we had a solar flare it's very equivalent to an EMP, and it fried all the electronics. Fortunately, the only thing they had back then was telegraphs, but it totally took down the communications in the United States, solar flare. Or it could be an actual attack on the internet, which numerous countries have tried to do, and they can do it remotely, or taking down our power grid. Any of those things could cause huge economic upheaval. Well, let's just simplify it and say that the debt causes the dollar to become so worthless that people lose confidence in it. That's the first step in every hyperinflation. People lose confidence in their money. Mm-hmm. So the dollar goes to zero. Gold in that situation, again, not using any computer models like the government's been using for this China virus. Right. Remember, they said 10% of the people in the country would be infected and 10% of those would die. Well, now it's only a tiny fraction of the people in the country that will have had the virus. Mm-hmm. And they took it down from 10% to 5% to 2%. Now they're saying 0.3%. Okay. Once they get enough people tested, I am quite sure it's going to be 0.1%, which is about what the regular seasonal flu is. Okay. So I don't trust their computer models at all.
And the way the numbers get reported, it's like someone very near and dear to me yesterday was very alarmed. Did you see the headlines today? There's 1,000 more cases of the coronavirus in Arizona. And I said, no, there isn't. Well, yeah, it's right here. It's the headline. I go, as we expand our ability to test and to do more tests, people who we did not know had it, we will now. I said, the people that tested positive today that are part of those statistics, real good chance they had it yesterday, last week, maybe 2 weeks ago. Maybe they've been carrying it around, for a month. But it says 1,000 new cases. Yeah, identified. I honestly, I run out of words to try to break that down to its, simplest common denominator so that the world can understand this. I mean, I think in this audience, it's pretty clear to everybody. Everyone understands what I'm talking about. But people who live and die by the next headline or news cycle, you can't get through to them.
And now they're trying desperately to bump the death numbers up. People in nursing homes have reported that they're being required to list every death in a nursing home as a China virus death.
That's crazy. That's a money grab. They're just trying to grab the federal dollars.
Oh, yeah, because the more people, for each person that's in a hospital or a nursing home, they get so many $1 million for it. But also, now coroners are reporting that they've been ordered to report natural deaths or accidental deaths or heart attack deaths, or people that were dying of cancer and they only had days to live, they were stage 4, they're testing them. And because the test is so sensitive, if you have even a trace of the virus, but you're not infected, it's just like you and I have cancer cells in our body.
Cha-ching! Ring the cash register again. Cha-ching!
Yeah.
Print them toe
So
tags.
they're bumping up the numbers by testing dead people, and also anybody who dies in the hospice, they're assuming it's a virus death. So as they test more and more people and find out that the real death numbers as a percentage are smaller, the only thing they can do to keep any credibility is to fake death certificates. And that's happening all over the country.
This is a bigger scam than the 30-year mortgage.
Yeah.
Far bigger.
Let's just take the rest of our time and focus on what do we think the country would look like in a crash. I mean, besides the fact that nobody will accept your paper money and gold and silver will be the only money. I mean, that's pretty much settled. But what do you think is going to happen to essential services like police and fire? What do you think would happen to banking, communications, energy, the flow of oil and gasoline?
Well, when people stop getting paid, they're probably going to stop showing up for work.
Okay.
Number one.
What else? And again, anybody, if you have any thoughts on this, if there was a crash, even if you don't think there's going to be, but let's just do an intellectual exercise. If there was a crash, how would it affect our country? What would it look like? Because that's part of what I was talking about the Bible verse before. We need to be prepared.
At some point, the electricity in your house is going to stop working.
Right.
The water coming out of your faucet in your sink is going to start to look like sludge, and then it's probably just not even going to come out at all when you turn the handle.
Okay.
I mean, these don't happen overnight, but if there's a true crash and there's panic in the streets and people can't use their money and they've got to spend gold and silver. See, I don't know that I can visualize a world where that happens in my lifetime. I don't know what your based on the actuary tables, I don't know what your timeline is from where you are now to when you check out. But for me, between now and when I check out, I don't see that happening.
Well, gold and silver have been the only money.
I agree.
For 6,000 years.
I agree.
We've in this country had this experiment with monopoly money for a little over 85 years, something like that.
I just don't think people are going to burn their dollars in my lifetime. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
But let's pretend like it's going to happen, because
okay, yeah.
I want to see what people think and how they think they should prepare for it. Even if you think it won't happen, don't you think it's a good idea to be prepared if it does happen?
Hey, everybody should have health insurance, but we pray you don't get sick.
Exactly. So, anybody from the audience have any comments on what the nation would look like after a crash?
Anybody? Anybody got a thought? You put a little head.
Are we going to have anarchy, or will there still be elections? Will Congress still meet?
I think the day we burn the dollar, we become a society of animals. And what we've seen these past few weeks, this looting and rioting in the street, will just become everyday commonplace. It won't be limited to, the inner city. It'll be in your master planned community. They'll kick in your door. They'll start busting up your furniture, and they'll drag your wife upstairs. And oh, by the way, your car's on fire.
Yeah. Well, look, when I used to teach stock trading, I told people, okay, if you have a $100 stock and it drops to $50, what do? And they say, well, I have to hold it. I said, why? They say, because I can't afford to lose $50. Well, you've already lost $50. It's gone. Okay? And there's no guarantee it's going to ever go back up again. And it could go down further. So you've lost the money. You have to face the reality. Then I'll say, well, what would it take for the stock to regain that 50%? And they say, well, it would have to make 50%. No, it would have to make 100%, which is a whole lot harder than losing 50%. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So when you say the day the dollar burns is the day we have anarchy, look, the dollar's already burned in a metaphorical sense.
Yeah, but you can still buy a $9 cup of coffee with it at Starbucks.
Yeah. But look at Argentina. This was just a few years ago. Okay. People lost confidence in their money, and the storekeepers wouldn't accept the Argentine paper money anymore. It's not a matter of people wanting to burn their dollars or in their case, the reals. It's the fact that they won't buy anything. Right. I heard a recording of a Princeton professor who actually lived through the German hyperinflation. And you could still hear, after all these years, he was probably in his 90s when he said this, but you could hear him almost crying. He said, we had no hope. We had no warning. Suddenly, no one would take our paper money. The store shelves were bare. I mean, this guy lived through this. It was a very emotional thing for him. Well, Argentina, a couple of decades ago, lived through the same thing. People realized that the government was spending more money than it had, and they lost confidence in the money. Zimbabwe, in this century, like 10, 15 years ago, their dollar was equal to the US dollar, close to it. And 4 years later, they were printing $100 trillion bills that were only worth 3 cents US.
Right.
So it can happen any place. And you know what normalcy bias is. People think that the way things are the way they will always
be. Yeah.
This is normal. This is real life, and so it's always going to be like this. And I'm sure the people in Zimbabwe, in Argentina, in France, who lost their currency 4 times, Germany, whose currency crashed 2 times, and both of those were modern economies when they had their last crash. It's not like old style economies. The fact is that the dollar is already gone. It's just people haven't realized it. It's like the United States is bankrupt, but we haven't filed the papers. Mm-hmm. We owe far more than we own as a nation. And so we're actually legally bankrupt.
To retire all of that debt would take, 3 years of GDP?
Oh, more than that.
Really?
Well, let me just tell you what I think is going to happen. First of all, you're right about a lot of people, they're not going to go to work if they're not getting paid.
Although in Uganda, many people go for months without getting paid, even those with government jobs, but they keep showing up for work every day in hopes that they will someday get paid, because there's 10 people standing behind them in line waiting to take that job and gamble that they will someday get paid.
Yeah. I had a carpenter work for me when I was building log homes in North Carolina, and he was talking about this contractor he worked for that one day said, well, we don't have enough money to pay you, but I'll catch it up next week. And then the next week it happened again. And then the next week, well, now he's in so deep, if he quits, he's never going to see the money. Mm-hmm. And eventually the guy went out of business, and he owed my carpenter that's working for me thousands of dollars. And as he talked about it, he got madder and madder, and his face was turning red. And this had happened years before. And he ran over to his truck and got his shotgun out. And I love the expressions they have there in the mountains. I said, what are you going to do, Carson? He says, I'm going to go down there and kill me out of Weeks-Berry. And, he was just so furious all these years later about how he'd been ripped off. But there is a class of people that I believe will keep working, and that's police and fire. I mean, having worked in both of those professions, I know how dedicated those people are, and they know how important what they do is for the community. So they'll continue fighting fires even if they don't get paid. And the police will continue to try and keep people safe as long as they can. I'm sure they'll find other ways to try and make money as well. They will sit around the firehouse all day long and wait for a fire. But if those alarms go off, or those beepers or whatever, however they communicate, go off, they'll respond. That's just my opinion. I don't think we're going to have anarchy if the dollar crashes, because we already have another system that's tried and true waiting to take over from the fiat system. So when the fiat system is gone, the real money, and by the way, gold and silver are the only constitutional money. So it's not a big leap to your grandparents bought everything with gold and silver. We're not that many decades past. People will very quickly get used to using real money. So I don't necessarily think there'll be anarchy. I think at first it'll be like these riots. At first, the government's going to be paralyzed, and they won't know what to do. There'll be a lot of very poor leaders, like the one we mentioned earlier. So there will be some rioting, some anarchy, and so on, because people are furious because their paper money that they work for doesn't work anymore, and the people who didn't prepare are going to be very mad at the people who did. Why they would be mad at me for preparing, I don't know, but that's human nature. But I don't believe that long term we're going to have anarchy, again, based on the record of history. This has happened to practically every nation. But I think what will happen here is what happened in France. They went off the gold standard, they went to a worthless paper money, and within 6 years, they had printed 38 times as much money as the parliament, they call the Assemblée, were allowed to produce. And the money just became worthless. So there was rioting in Paris, and they broke the plates they used to print the money. They said, we're never going to do assignats anymore. That was bad money. We got a much better idea. We got the mandat. And so they started printing, but it was more paper money, and it wasn't backed by anything. And it only took 2 years this time before it crashed. So then the French leader said, hey, I've got a great idea. Let's go on a gold standard. Well, you idiots, you were on a gold standard. And if you stayed on that, these last 8 years of almost destroying the nation of France wouldn't have happened. So I believe that's going to happen here. I believe the government is going to be forced to go back on the gold standard, and I believe that for several reasons. One is that China is buying tons of gold at a time. They're now the biggest producer of gold. Used to be South Africa. They're the biggest net importer of gold. That used to be India. And they're mining gold that they're not reporting to the IMF. They're preparing to have a gold-backed currency. So if they beat us to that, then they take over the world economically and probably militarily as well. So we have to beat them to it. We have to have a gold-backed dollar, or they will just take over. They'll own the United States. So what would it take? Well, I did some calculations. We've got enough gold owned by the government in this country to cover 4% of all the trillions of dollars that have been printed. So that doesn't work. Not with gold at $1,700. They're going to have to revalue gold to, I believe, I figured at $42,500. I've seen a lot of people saying anywhere from $50,000 to $80,000 per ounce to cover all the, not just the money that's printed, but also the treasury notes and bills and so on. So if there's a crash on the other side, the people who have just regular bullion gold, they'll be very wealthy. The people who have investment grade gold, like me, will be stupid wealthy. I mean, I won't be able to spend all the money. I'll be giving 90% of it away, which has been one of my goals for the last 20 years. Before I die, I want to be a reverse tither. I want to give 90% and live on 10%. But I believe that we will go back on a gold standard, or if we don't, then the country will absolutely fall apart, because no country's ever survived throughout history without sound money. The average lifespan of a paper money has been only 37 years. We've only beaten those odds by the fact that we're the world reserve currency. If China starts backing the money with gold, or if there's an international gold-backed currency, which is something else that people are working towards, then we will no longer be the world reserve currency, and we will have to live within our means like every other nation. And I don't know that we're able to do that. So we had to go back to real money. That's Uncle Tom's predictions.
Well, Dr. Tom. Let's see. Fred asks, so all savings accounts and 401k or 401ks will be gone. I guess you can answer that one, then I'll ask you the other question.
Yes, they'll be gone. Savings, the banks will fail. The FDIC almost ran out of money in 2008 with all the banks that failed. So yeah, anything that you own and your only proof of ownership is paper, including your insurance policy, your annuity, whatever, it's gone.
And Aaron asked, what does Tom think the price of gold would go to if the U.S. went back to a gold standard?
Well, that was the calculation I was just sharing. I calculated at $42,500 an ounce to take the small amount of gold and cover all the money that we spent. Other people that I've read that study the same things as I do are calculating differently. They say $50,000 to $80,000 per ounce. But in any case, even if you have 1 ounce of gold and you're the poorest person in your neighborhood and the crash comes, you will be the richest person in the neighborhood just by virtue of having that 1 ounce of gold.
Wow.
And speaking of gold, we haven't mentioned this, but CFRNgold.com. I think you know what CFRN is. And just put gold at the end of that, .com, and I will send you the Gold Education Starter Package, which will tell you, number one, why gold is the only safe investment left in this country. Number two, how to allocate the money that you decide that you're going to put into gold. And number three, how to avoid getting ripped off, because there's a lot of people selling counterfeit gold out there. There's a lot of people taking money on the internet because of this gold shortage. And they're taking money from people and telling them, we'll ship it to you in 3 weeks or 2 months or 4 months. And those people will never see their money. There's a lot of scams going on. So this will show you how to avoid that. And by the way, if you don't want to go on the internet and whatever, you just want to talk to me directly, just call 561-753-5998, 561-753-5998, and that's my direct line here in the office. And I'll be happy to answer any questions you have. I'm not a financial planner anymore. I gave up all my licenses, but doesn't mean I forgot how to do it. It's like my driver's license expires, doesn't mean I don't know how to drive a car. So I'll be glad to give anybody any advice. I don't charge for it, and help you any way I can. I want to see Christians prosper in this thing that's coming. You would either crash and burn with the rest of the society, or you can prosper and thrive because of it.
Amen. Prosperity for God's people. Thank you, Dr. Tom.
Well, thank you, Brother Dwayne. Good talking with you, and
enjoyed it very much.
God bless everybody in the audience. Don't forget to take Psalms 91 every day. Stay safe, and just trust the Lord, and He'll keep you safe, okay?
All right, brother. God bless you.
God bless you. Bye.
Thank you. Okay, guys, here's the deal. I'm going to take a 5-minute break. I encourage you to do the same thing. I'll hit mute on my end, but I'm going to keep the session running.
Sir.
I'm going to take a 5-minute break, then I'm going to come back, and we're going to do the recap of the S&P, the Dow, the Russell, the NQ, Crude, Gold, We're going to look at logic. We're going to look at the Concierge Trade Alerts. And we may not get to the big picture alerts today. If not today, we'll get to them tomorrow, because the hour is already late. But we're going to get those recaps done. It's very important. We've done those recaps every day on this show for more years than I remember. And every one of them is archived at youtube.com/CFRN. So when you see the results from any show, and maybe you're new and you think, oh yeah, well, so they got lucky. Well, it's not about luck. And it's not about any kind of magical secret or any of that garbage that people use to sell you their garbage. This is just about a simple understanding of how markets work. And when the market hands you an opportunity, taking advantage of the opportunity the market hands you. It's really that simple. Anybody that tries to tell you that it's more than that, well, figure out what their motive is for telling you that. Okay? All right. So, set my clock. 5-minute break. You know what? Let's not kid ourselves. There's a chance it might turn into 10. I'll see you in a few. Okay, let's do this thing. All right, get the charts up. Go to the S&P. And if you were unable to get a screenshot earlier, as I pull them up, if you want to grab it, you can. The alerts went out last night, 6:50 p.m. Eastern. My goal is to get them out as soon after the Globex Open as I can. Sometimes market conditions prevent it, sometimes life conditions prevent it. It's rare that I get them out past 9 p.m. Eastern, but it has happened. By the way, if you want to get robbed, go trade with TradeStation. Yeah, I said it out loud. I said it publicly. We don't normally call names, but I know somebody that just got a 19-tick slip on gold on this move right here. Follow the instructions to the T. The trade was 1726 to 1729. That's $300 per contract traded. The swing high was 1729 on the nose. So, you know, trading is difficult enough, but having a broker who works against you, and that's just criminal. Now, as you guys know, our broker of record and who we recommend is Daniels Trading. Specifically, Burton Schlichter, because he works for Daniels Trading. He is a broker. And while there are certain things that, you know, he as a broker has no control over, you know, at least you get the satisfaction of talking to a human being who understands your position, your situation, and who will do whatever they can that is within their power to fix or correct. When you call a machine, like one of the big names I just mentioned, or the ones you see on the TV commercials, most of the time you're talking to somebody that was hired off the street, never placed a trade, wouldn't even know where to start. But that's who you got to deal with when you call in. Now, our relationship with Daniels Trading, let me explain. We don't receive a finder's fee if you open an account with them, nor do we participate in some kind of a split of commissions if you trade with them. Okay? Not that any of that's illegal, but it sure muddies the water, doesn't it? So that's why we don't do it. Because we don't want to muddy the water. We want to be able to tell you that of our combined years in the markets, both mine and Michael's, and I've had many brokers, he's had many, we've never found anyone that comes anywhere close to the service that Bert Schlichter provides, and Daniels Trading. He works for them and stands by them, right? We've never come across anyone who is so willing to go out of their way to keep a client happy. Now, if you watch the video I posted some weeks ago by Anton Kriel, Anton Kriel or Kreil. If you Google it and YouTube, it'll pop right at the top. He tells you what I've been telling you for many years. Most brokers understand this right here. 9 out of 10 new traders fail. So why should they invest any time or energy in you? 90% of traders lose 90% of their money in 90 days or less. Churn and burn, baby. Churn and burn. Bert and Daniels both stand out in that they work very hard to help you actually learn to trade. I mean, they have resources they've got videos, and they've got all kinds of classes and instructional stuff to try to help you become a profitable trader. They're naive enough to believe that if they invest their resources in you, that maybe, you know, worst case is you become the 1 out of 10. But what they really try to do is they really try to change this statistic. Now, this number does not apply inside the walls of CFRN. CFRN exists for that very purpose. Okay? But if you're outside the walls of CFRN, this does apply. It's a tragic, frightening statistic, but it's a fact. If you can find the 1 out of 10, because if there's 9 out of 10, then there's supposedly got to be a 1 out of 10. Go find the 1 out of 10. And 9 out of 10 times, if you ask him this question, did you have somebody actually teach you how to trade? The answer's going to be, well, yeah, how else would I learn? See, the 9 out of 10, the mindset is, oh, wow, this is simple. I'm going to make a killing. Whereas the mindset of the 1 out of 10 is, wow, what an incredible opportunity. I better find somebody to teach me how to do this. You're one of those two people. Whoever you are, wherever you are listening to this, whether it's today live, as I'm speaking, or 6 years from now, you fit into one of those two groups. Oh man, this is easy. I'm going to make a killing. Or, I've never seen such an incredible opportunity before. I better make fast and find somebody to teach me how to do this. That's the first step of the journey to becoming the 1 out of 10. Still got a long road ahead of you. Tam, I'll have to get with you on that in here in a little bit. Let me get this finished, and then I'm going to focus on you. Okay. All right. Let's get through this recap. ES. Last night's alert on the ES. Consider being long 31.25. The swing high was only. Let's see, what time did the alerts go out? They went out at 18:50. 6:50 p.m. 18:50. So I need to find the 18:30 candle. Okay, so this is the candle the alerts went out on. Right here. Let me just... Somebody out there going, oh, he's pulling our leg. Right there. Now, I typed 6:50, but by the time I type this, do all of this, and click the mouse, it was 6:48 p.m. Eastern. Oh, somebody had a question yesterday. How come the time on your screen doesn't match my screen? My charts, okay, my charts are set to Eastern time. So as you can see, we're working on the 1400 30-minute candle right now. Okay, this candle opened 1400 hours. We'll get a new 30-minute candle here in 2 minutes at 14:30. Okay, these arrows I drew, by the way, because somebody said, hey, we're getting a nice bounce on the S&P, and I was simply pointing out that we got a beautiful bounce, right? We came down, got to the zone, printed a doji, up. Classic, textbook. However, the bounce ran into red and falling, which could be the death knell of any rally. Okay, price has to overcome red and falling before you start thinking about being long above red and falling. Could you be long up to red and falling? Well, you see, you were below the BBC, so really you're only thinking about short trades. So while you might have participated in this would actually be considered a counter trend trade. So what you're looking for here is if the red and falling does reject price back to the downside, okay, then your opportunity be below the step line, 3106, down to 3103. Beautiful little 3-point trade, okay? And that's a trend trade because we base trend on the 30-minute chart. And on the 30-minute chart, actually, price is above the BBC, but it's fighting a battle right now. It's pinched between the BBC, red and falling. Okay, if we take out the high of this candle, okay, then that means we have overcome, right? We've overcome red and falling, so we can go back to trading long. If price fails here, okay, then that shorting opportunity would be in keeping with the trend. We define the trend on a 30-minute chart based on where price is in relation to the BBC. If it's above, we're looking for higher prices. When it's below, we're looking for lower prices. Above, higher prices. Below, lower prices. Okay? Now the short side was 2605. Oh, stop. 3104. Last night's Concierge Trade Alert for the S&P. 3125 on the upside, 3104 on the downside. So this is the candle it came out on. And the swing high here was 2675, and the high here was also 2675. That's that double top I talked about this morning. So on the upside, we only went 1 3/4 points so far. Okay. On the short side, the number was 3104. 3104. $31.04. All right. So from 3104, we hit the weekly trading zone, which we expect to be good support. So that's a 4-point move. We got back above the trigger and did it again. That's another 4 points. We got back above the trigger, and this time we did not make it all the way to the zone. That's why I always tell you, zones are an area. Just waiting for that label to vanish. Thank you. So the swing low on this move was 3 1/4 points. So you had a 4-point move, a 4-point move, and then from 3104 we dropped to 3100.75. So no, 2 1/4 points. 2 1/4 points on that one. Okay, and it looks like, remember what I said about red and falling? Okay, and remember the numbers I gave you? Now I realize that the trigger for the CTA is down here at 3104, right? But what's wrong with getting in at 3105? You already got a point in your pocket before you get to 3104. Okay? Because you might need to take profit early based on that swing low. Which takes precedent at this point? The zone or that swing low? The swing low. Okay? All right. The Dow. All right, the long side for the Dow was 26,280, which is way up here. 26,280 took us up to 328. So from 80, 40. So it's 48 points. Call it 40 at $5 a point. That's a $200 per contract move. This time we made it up to 340. So from 280 to 340, that's 60 at $5 a point. That's $300 per contract traded. Price gets back below the trigger, triggers again. And this time we go from 280 to 360. That's 80 points at $5 a point. That's $400 per contract traded. The short side was 26055, and we've not touched that price in this session. Oh wait, did we? What's the low here? 26056. Really? Consider being short. 26055. Swing low of the session. $26056. So this came within 1 point of triggering on the short side. Moving on. Russell. Do the Russell. Okay, the Russell, considering short 1439. So right below the zone. 1439. And for 1439, we dropped to 27. Call it 10 points. $500 per contract traded. Then we got above the trigger and we dropped down again. This time we went from 39 down to 30. Tonight, call it 8 points. At $50 a point, that's $400 per contract traded. And the swing low here was 35.70. The trigger was 39. So 3 points, $50 a point, $150 per contract traded. Now the long side of the Russell was 1457. 1457. Okay, the swing high was 60. 3 points, $50 a point, $150 per contract traded. Swing high here was 58. That's like 1 point. Almost 2 points. 1.8. Okay. All right, that's the Russell. Let's go to the NQ. On the NQ, long above 97.02. Somebody just picked up a mic. Let me mute that. Okay. All right. 97.02. $97.02 up to the zone, 23 points. 23 times 20, 460. Yeah, $460 per contract traded. Then price got back below the trigger. This time it only bounced up to, actually that's not a bounce. No, it didn't. Actually, it came below here and bounced. Let's see, the entry again was 97.02. So it bounced to about 7 points, $20 a point, $140 per contract traded. On the short side for the NQ, 96.64, which is right there. 96.64, we went down to the zone at 50. So from 64 to 50 is 14 times 20 is $280 per contract traded. And it looks like we did it once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times. 5 times. 5. 5. Okay? All right, crude oil. On crude, the alert, instead of being long, 37.10. $37.10, we put in a swing high, $37.61. So that's $500 per contract traded. The short side for crude was $35.50, which honestly was a huge mistake on my part. And so anyone trading the short side of crude hopefully would recognize that Dwayne made a mistake and he put a short entry right on top of a weekly trading zone. Okay, I don't make those types of mistakes very often, but I'm human so it can happen. Anyone shorting crude last night, because I always tell you, you never trade an alert just because it's an alert. You go to your chart. Now, I had not updated, because the charts I use for the radio show, it's a demo account, so I don't make any mistakes, clicking around. And also, I display last week's zones up until today, Thursday, when I then share the zones with the entire audience. So I was working off this chart last night. I'm not making excuses. I'm just telling you what happened. It was in the session this morning that I updated this zone, I believe. And so had it updated last night, I would not have put an entry. So let's clarify. You're always going to go to your chart before you place a trade. You're always going to have the zones on your chart. And when I make that kind of a mistake, usually somebody will immediately send me a message in the discussion group and go, hey, did you really mean? And I'll go, oh man, thanks for the heads up. And I'll go correct it. Okay, nobody corrected me last night. If you did, I missed it. Okay. Crude. Gold. Gold, the long alert by 1719. And 1719 is right there. So the first move took us to 1720 and a half. That's $150 per contract traded. Then from 1719 up to 1725. That's $600 per contract traded. And then the third time we triggered, it went from 1719 to the zone at 29. That's 10 points at $100 a point. That's $1,000 per contract traded. Getting long at the entry and staying long till you get to the target was worth $1,000 per contract traded. All right. And I already gave you the recap on the Logic 247, but I'll share it with you again because I got it right here. So far this week in Logic 247, as of 11:10 a.m. Eastern, 61 total alerts. We start Sunday night, 6 p.m. Eastern. Now the Concierge, which we just finished, that's based on historical price action. The Logic 247 alerts, which come out around the clock as opportunity presents itself, from Sunday night at 6 p.m. Eastern to Friday afternoon at 5 p.m. Eastern. We've issued a total of 61 alerts. 10 just never triggered. We're waiting on the results of 2 when we started the show. That gave us 49 actionable alerts. 9 of those were stopped out. On the alerts, Concierge and Logic, we do not want to risk more than $300 per contract per trade, less when the market allows us. I teach all of our traders a 3-step methodology for placing your stop loss. The beautiful thing about the method we use is we let the chart tell us where to put the stop based on market structure. We don't use the ATR or some percentage or anything else. I'm not saying any of those things are wrong or bad. I'm just saying that's not what we use. We use the structure of the market to pinpoint where the stop loss goes. I teach every one of our traders the same 3-step methodology. Okay. So far this week, typical week, 18% of actionable alerts stopped out. Now, one of my favorite parts of the day is our good word for the day. And I'm looking for my notes. Tonight is partner workshop. When you take our trial, you get everything. You get the alerts, you get the indicators, you get the live training room, you get the one-on-one mentoring, you get access to a discussion group. But you don't get to go to the member workshop. That's private, behind closed doors discussion. If you've been on the trial, though, and you'll want to be in that meeting, just get a hold of Valerie. Number's on the screen, 949-42-EMINI, or email her support@cfrn.net to say, hey, Valerie, I'm interested in becoming a member. Dwayne said you would send me a price sheet, spec sheet, where you tell me, exactly what I get and how much that costs. You're going to be surprised. It's an awesome thing. God is good. Today, part 2, Arrested Development. Job said, you will forget your misery. It will be like water flowing away. And everybody said, I wish. Well, it's in the Word. So, arrested development. Let's talk today about arrested emotional development. When you don't get help for your past emotional hurts, you'll find yourself acting out, treating others like you were treated, repeating your past in your present. Indeed, you may end up hurting the most important people in your life, maybe even destroying those relationships without even knowing why. You'll blame the failure of the relationship on your partner's habits, looks, attitudes, or the cap being left off the toothpaste. And in so doing, you will remain emotionally stuck, trapped by the unhealed, unrecognized source of your dysfunction. What you're dealing with here is called emotional baggage. Regrets over past mistakes, grudges over being wronged, and all the other hurts that you hide under clouds of anger, cynicism, and reclusiveness. You will never know what you have or what you truly need until you get rid of your emotional baggage. Okay, Coach, how do I do that? The answer, as with all things, can be found in God's Word and in God's presence. Job 11:13 through 19. Prepare your heart and lift up your hands to Him in prayer. Get rid of your sins and leave all iniquity behind you. Then your face will brighten with innocence. You'll be strong and free of fear. You will forget your misery. It will be like water flowing away. Your life will be brighter than the noonday sun. Even darkness will be as bright as morning. Having hope will give you courage. You'll be protected and you will rest in safety. And many will look to you for help. Just be sure and tell them where your help came from. You're not the well. You point them to the well. Amen. That's a good word for the day. Thanks so much for tuning in. Whoever you are, wherever you are, may God continue to richly bless you with His mercy and with His grace. And I'll see you at the bell. Could we insert awkward silence right here till the outro plays? Thank you.
Remember this, there is no greater return on investment than to see a human life changed and given hope. As always, pray hard and trade safe. Any financial information discussed on this show is simply the opinion of our host, Dwayne Reeves, his co-hosts, and guests. To learn more about trading Emini Futures or to take a 1-week free trial in our live trading room, call 1-866-928-3310. 866-928-3310. Information discussed on this radio program should not be construed as a recommendation to buy or sell any security. Always do your own due diligence and consult with a licensed securities broker or financial planner before making any investment decision.